Okay, we've made it to the final session. Well, the penultimate session of Managing Editor Live 2021, and it's a good one. It is. I think it's one of the most important things about content marketing, and that is the future of content strategy. We have three powerhouse panelists to talk about their approach to content strategy. And so to kick things off, let's talk to Luke Collins. He is the Senior Vice President of Content Strategy at Leff. Luke, tell us about yourself and your approach to content strategy.
Yeah, hi everyone, welcome. I can't see you, but I will imagine I can. I've been in this world now, largely in thought leadership content for a bit over a decade. Began my real career as a journalist, and it was at McKinsey, both as a consultant and then transferred back to the world I knew and loved. Then I was at Deloitte, then I was at Ernst & Young, and actually I think that has given me a real perspective on the way content strategy is evolving. You know, each of those organizations actually had differing degrees of marketing influence over thought leadership, for example, which actually gets into some really interesting areas. But fundamentally, I feel like when I started 10 years ago, I don't know how Kelly and Kanoe feel, this was like a cottage industry. And now it's like everyone is doing, we're seeing the power of content, the power to engage and the power for it to be compelling. I mean, I was one of those people originally, I thought, well, this is good because there's jobs for ex-journalists, which is always important. But now it's truly becoming a real, you know, to me, sort of the it's just a legitimate, fully formed, advancing every year mechanism for engaging people and burnishing your brand and doing all those things that traditionally might have been done through other means, but this is really where it's all at now.
Great.
Excellent. All right. Kelly Peters is the communications and content manager at JazzHR. I will say that RepCap uses JazzHR, and we recently hired someone through, actually two people from JazzHR.
See that? Okay.
I was skeptical, but you know, talking to Mary Ellen, she convinced me, and I'm a big fan of the company, and so Kelly, tell me about what you're up to at JazzHR.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is actually a sales call. I'm going to demo JazzHR now. Just kidding. Yeah, so I'm Kelly Peters. I am the content and communications manager at JazzHR. So as Tom mentioned, or you might have uncovered in what he described, we are a hiring software company. So I started my career also in journalism. Just for a hot second was doing some local news, and then also on the production side of TV and entertainment, which was really fun. But kind of found my way into tech and realized that I really liked the technology industry and the culture and the people in the power of these different solutions. I just was really fun to work on. So I started in customer success at JazzHR, and I'm so thankful that I did. It gave me this awesome foundation of getting to work one-on-one with their customers and really understand their pain points, how they use the software, what they're seeing in the industry. And then I've been able to really pair that understanding with our marketing goals. So I moved over to the marketing team, actually relocated from Pittsburgh to Boston, then a pandemic hit, perfect timing. So it's been a great experience, and just really have loved everything about content marketing. I started doing content first for Dick's Sporting Goods on their website, so a B2C retail brand. And Luke, as you spoke about content marketing really growing into this very much full-fledged revenue driving channel at Dick's Sporting Goods, I was reporting up through not even marketing, which is interesting. I was reporting through e-commerce, was a separate function for them. And I've just seen through the years how content has grown into this, now full department. And it's awesome to see, and it's great at JazzHR. Marketing not only is seen as a revenue driver, but content specifically. So just can't say enough about the great experience and my team. And so glad to be here talking to everyone just about content.
Excellent. Yeah. And Mary Ellen has joined us.
Hi, yes, I was just coming over from the conversation with Lorraine, so I'm glad that y'all got started. So
Excellent. And I'm going to let Mary Ellen introduce the third speaker, in part because SmartBrief has a special place in both our hearts, because it's where I met Mary Ellen. And I think, you know, what we learned at SmartBrief, especially what Mary Ellen learned in SmartBrief, sort of infused our DNA in terms of as an agency, and really the part of the content strategy behind managing editor. So Mary Ellen, you have the floor.
All right.
Go for it.
So, yeah, so I'm going to introduce Kanoe here. I guess in some ways you have what was my old job at SmartBrief. In part,
Kinda, yeah.
You took it to a whole other level,
Yes.
which has been really nice to see. Like you wound up taking it another level. So whereas I focused on that workforce leadership stuff, you grabbed education to, but you know, I think I wanted you to join this panel because your background to me is interesting in that you are more of what I would call traditional media, right? So you spent 2 decades working in B2B publishing, specifically, mostly in education, where that winds up intersecting with workforce stuff a good bit. You know, you're at SmartBrief now, but you were covering education technology news, worked at campus technology. I mean, you're really coming at this, whereas like, you know, if Luke is doing thought leadership content, you know, and Kelly's like driving e-commerce and small business, like you're coming at this from a media, B2B media background. So
yeah, I'm Kanoe Namahoe, and I've been in B2B publishing about 23 and a half years. And I was telling the group earlier that I actually started on the sales side, selling ad space, and my trajectory over to the editorial, which nobody does. Nobody goes from the potential to make a lot more money to doing this. Like you have to be heart invested in this thing. But it suits me. It suits my personality. And like Luke, you know, I watched this thing grow up. Content marketing went kind of from being the unwanted stepchild, if I can use that, and just kind of like, you know, real traditional journalists wouldn't have anything to do with that. When I first started assigning content marketing, you know, giving out, you know, assigning people to content marketing programs, I had people turning down $2,000 and $3,000 jobs because they're like, no, I can't. And even if they knew their byline wasn't going to be on it, like, no, I can't touch that. And I'm like, okay, now we have come all the way down that pathway, and now and content marketing, like Luke said, has really grown up, and now we see that you must spend money, you must invest money in the content, the people that are in charge of your content strategy. You must look for journalists. You must look for people who know the value and the purpose and the urgency of objective content, of putting together meaningful information, of not getting stuck in the swamp of marketing jargon, which can happen all the time. You need that. Somebody's got to be the guard at the gate. And so it's been actually a lot of fun to watch content marketing grow up and go through its teenage years. And now it's sort of like in its, you know, it's in its emerging adulthood, and it's powerful. And I think the thing I love the most about it is that, like traditional journalism, it puts the reader at the center. And I love content marketing. I love working in B2B because you're working with professionals. You're working with people that are invested in the thing that they do day to day. They're invested in their work, and they want good information, and they want the thing that you're putting together. And that match, I can't believe I get paid to do this job. So I dig it all day long. I dig it.
Well, cool. Here's where I want to start with this. Like, first of all, people use the term content strategy. This comes up a lot. It's like, well, we have to be more strategic about our content, or what is content strategy? I want each of you to just take a moment. I want you to define, when I say that word, when I say what content strategy, what does that mean in the context of your work? And I'm going to start with you, Luke. Like, when I say, what does content strategy mean to you?
Well, I mean, at a fundamental level, the majority of the work I've been involved with is thought leadership, which I find to be an odd term to begin with. But fundamentally, someone said to me once, oh, it's what earns me the right to sell to you. Well, what earns you the right to sell to me? Right? The content you produce earns you the right to sell me stuff. And so for me, your content strategy is around, I mean, if you're a consumer packaged goods company and you're making, you know, soft drinks or something, you can take out ads. As a product, it's relatively easy to sell. If what you're selling is what you know, if what you're selling is your intellectual capital, you need to find a way to communicate that effectively, to show people how smart you are, to show them why they should work with you, all that sort of stuff. And I feel like the content strategy for me is it should be a methodical, strategic approach to how you develop and publish content that showcases your thinking, that supplements your organization's overarching goals, how it wants to be seen in the world. Ideally, it's distinctive. It's not just adding to the noise, because we all know how much stuff gets published these days. But I think to Kanoe's point, when I began in journalism, it was like the dark side. If you went into PR, it was like you sold out to the dark side. And those boundaries are blurred significantly. And I used to be one of those people that would see branded content and I wouldn't even look at it. Like, they're paying for that. And why would I look at that? It's those lines, it's gone. That's just gone. And what it's about now is compelling storytelling. I try to think of it like explanatory journalism. It's compelling storytelling. It's done in a news, sort of an inverted pyramid news style. It gives you the insights that you need, insights you can use. If you never contact the company that printed the content, that's okay. If it provides you with something that you find useful, that's great. I think we all know that ideally we want people to contact us and want to work with us. But it's just, the strategy to me is just fundamentally grounded in storytelling, being engaging, being compelling, and getting to that point where, by virtue of having built trust and a sense of objectivity with the user, at some point, if you're lucky, they'll say, yeah, I'd like to hear more from that company. And you can't, we would all have the problem of drawing a straight line between what we publish and the money that it makes, the ROI. But I think it's about the storytelling and the relationship, which is why, again, it's so much fun to do.
What would you say, Kelly?
Yeah, so I definitely resonate the storytelling narrative there. Pardon me. I feel like oftentimes I look at it as I'm telling the why instead of the how. I always remind myself that as I'm writing a blog or any piece, I'm speaking to pain points. I'm not just telling them how we can fix it. And I see that even as a consumer of content. So I think of my strategy as why get your foot in the door even with us? To your point, Luke, I don't care. I don't care, but if you don't see what our brand name is, that's okay to an extent. Is my content helping you? Is it adding value on your journey out there in Google whenever you're searching around? And to your point, Kanoe, for B2B, that's really exciting because I think we've all been there as marketers. You go onto Google like with a purpose. I'm going there to learn something. Like maybe I'm searching pretty targeted about content marketing, and whatever I come across, I really intend to learn something from it and to have it educate me. So it's the buyer's foot in the door, and my way of telling our brand stories as a journalist would tell anyone's stories. So at the professional level, of course, then it is driving revenue. So as I mentioned, for us, for JazzHR, I am seeing what our business objectives are at any one point and making sure we align with those, and purposefully creating content, not just to throw it out there into the void, but purposely creating and distributing content in a way that aligns with that. And answering the why first and foremost versus the how.
Kanoe, what would you say from your perspective and like on the publishing side? What does strategy look like for you? What does that mean for you now?
Strategy always puts, and I don't think it's unique to us, but strategy always puts the reader at the center. Strategy, that's the compass, that's your North Star every time. The reader, the content aims to serve the reader. At the same time, it must also line up with organizational goals, the objective. There's no other point. So we keep our strategy simple: serve the reader and align here. And as you're doing that, then you're automatically getting the other stakeholders in your ecosystem involved: sales, partners, associations, vendors, and so forth, because there's multiple parties involved in this thing. And so, even as I say, the reader is our compass, legit, the reader is our compass. Because if you are not, as Kelly was saying, talking about pain points, if you are not addressing those pain points, and that's not simply just for content marketing, that's for any content you're putting out. We curate news for newsletters. If your content doesn't do that first, you're going to lose people. And it's just that simple. And the best way for us to serve our advertiser base is by consulting with them and talking to them about what are your customers' pain points. If you don't know that, it falls apart at the beginning. So serving the reader and lining up with SmartBrief's goals, that's our thing to do. Interesting. I heard 3 words here that 10, 12, 15 years ago, you weren't using them: content, narrative, and storytelling. I remember when I first started writing news, reports, my editor-in-chief would not allow us to use the word content. Content is a marketing word. Now content is widely accepted. It just is. And I think that speaks very loudly to the purpose, the intention, and the value of what content marketing brings, period. Storytelling and narrative, you tend to think of content marketing when you look at the trajectory. Man, white papers used to be so boring. You'd have to talk about these specs and you would put yourself to sleep just editing. It's like, oh my God, I can't. And now you are genuinely you're giving a voice, a personality, you're putting some human into the content. And once you do that, you latch onto those people and once I latch on, I'm not letting go. You're stuck with me now. So you're going to read this white paper. You're going to download our infographics. Narrative and storytelling have come into their own, and it's really good to see that.
So how is that? And I'm going to start with you on this next question then. How has that changed for you? Like, so strategy, we often think of it as something that gets set over the long term, right? We sit down and we say, okay, this is going to be our strategy. We're going to be here in 3 years, 5 years, and this is our strategy, right? These super high level things. Like, how did that work out? Like last year, right? I'm just kind of go around. But I mean, how in the ways all the upheaval, the pandemic, like were there ways that you changed your strategy, the way you rethought your content strategy in all of this? Like what happened?
Well, the best way for me to explain it is the way I explained it to somebody on the team. And, as we were having certain conversations in March 2011 or 2020, it's like, just 1 second. The gardener will only come by when you're on a webinar. The way I described it to folks is content strategy is kind of like a soccer field, a soccer game. You've got the lines, you got the touch lines, you've got the in lines, you've got the penalty, you've got the framework's already been built for you. So our framework never changed. The framework was reader first and how we engaged and how we had dialogue with the other stakeholders. That never changed. But how you move the ball up and down the field, how you score, how you reach your audience, that did. We had to pivot often. And I say that in the upheaval, the framework never changed, but the pace at which we had to change, yes. We might, in the previous years, you'd have an editorial calendar that told you what you're going to do in March, April, May, and ISTE in June, and you'd be talking about technology. That got all thrown up and down because in March, you had to constantly stay on top of what all educators needed to know. We serve educators. So we had to watch trends, and very quickly the news cycle was insane. And just as things were starting to slow down and we kind of had hands on things, George Floyd has killed it for the world. And very quickly, and that threw everything up. So it was moving much faster. We had to be constantly in touch with our readers. We had to get much closer to our audience, have very authentic conversations with our advertisers about what you hear. So pace, getting personal, that is what I'd say changed. We had to move much faster. We had to have a lot more conversation among all of us. And it was good. We were better for it. We got very creative, and the ball moved up and down the field intelligently. It wasn't willy-nilly, secure bumblebee ball.
Oh, sorry. I have to go. My dog started barking. So your gardener came by, my dog barked. Luke, what about you? How did things change for you?
So
sports metaphor for me.
I think that that sort of newsroom mentality has become much more prevalent. I think when I began in the world of sort of thought leadership, I call it a cottage industry. It was more like a little bit of a sleepy intellectual exercise, So the best thought leadership, I think, always emanates from client experience. If you talk about putting the reader at the center, the best insights come from direct interaction with companies, with clients, working with them to solve problems, and then you come out of that with a really good sense about what works, what doesn't, and you can write something that's really interesting and insightful. What I think is changing now is the demand is greater. So there's so much, it's almost commoditized as a format. So everyone's desperately trying to get heard, and you sort of have to shout louder to be heard. And the pace is so much greater. So you didn't have, even though very little of what we do traditionally is sort of tied to a specific news event or has to be published next week, unless it's supporting an event or something like that. There's this pressure now and this sort of pace, and I think COVID accelerated everything to some insane degree. I mean, I was at EY during COVID, and the volume of publishing just took off exponentially. Now, part of it was because no one quite knew what was happening, so it was like, let's publish everything we can because no one's quite sure. We just need to get insights out there, help people try and navigate what they're going through right now. But I don't think that was anything. I don't think that was new. I think it was just an acceleration of an existing trend for the industry, and the existing trend was becoming a little more proactive, news-driven, worrying about timeliness, trying to get news you can use in the hands of readers as quickly as you possibly can through multiple formats, taking what would have been in the old days a nice white paper and completely atomizing it, and putting stuff up on Twitter and LinkedIn and having infographics and short verse over here and a spin-off article over here. So for me, it's just been this sort of the evolution's been fascinating, and I found it particularly fascinating. I mentioned this before, but the way initially thought leadership was almost just this thing off it to the side, and as in most organizations, thought leadership now sits under marketing, and it has become increasingly influenced by marketing to the point where at some organizations you're sort of like, okay, we need a piece of thought leadership for CFOs in the consideration phase to sell our product X. And that's a change for people, because that to me is not really thought leadership. Well, it's a recipe for not particularly good thought leadership, if you know what I mean. But it's just the way I think that the boundaries between traditional thought leadership and content marketing are blurring. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's an adjustment for everyone.
How do you see content marketing evolving? And Kelly, are you there? Oh, sorry, we still no sound, but that's okay. Luke, how do you see content marketing evolving next year?
Obviously, on the trajectory it's still on, which is continuing to the lines between traditional, at least in my world, the line between traditional thought leadership and content marketing getting increasingly blurred. I think that like I said before, I feel like the degree to which people look at content marketing as a genuine revenue driver, as a genuine way to engage consumers, as a genuine way to form relationships that generate loyalty over time and have all these sort of ancillary business benefits has really just gone through the roof. So I think from our perspective, it's a continuation of what's been happening. I think everywhere I've worked, we've always said we want quality over quantity, and we always end up doing quantity, because quality is hard. It's really hard to do distinctive thought leadership. It takes a lot of time. It takes a big investment of resources. But I think that I would like to believe that the obvious outcome for the period that we've been through is that there will be some sort of rationalization of the amount of content, that people are so swamped that at some point there's going to be more of a focus on what's truly exemplary and what's truly distinctive. But yeah, I keep waiting for the lull, I keep waiting for the period where you can catch your breath, and it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So I feel like it's just going to continue on the current trajectory, hopefully maybe with audiences becoming, I wouldn't say more discerning, but us, because it's up to us to prioritize on their behalf, doing a better job of giving them exactly what they need, when they need it, where they need it, etc.
Kelly, do you find that to be the case?
Yeah, absolutely. And can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Loud and clear. Beautiful.
Yeah. So to kind of put last question and this question together, absolutely. I think that over the past 2 years, we internally at JazzHR have just listened more than anything else. So we've just been listening through channels that we weren't before, sending out surveys, talking to our customers more. And I see that, might sound cheesy, but adding more of the human element to all of this as the main trend continuing to go forward. So we are just trying to take in more input, I would say, from the actual users, for example, of our software. So we're hearing that through, for example, engagement on social media, that they really are loving micro videos. So I don't know if this is as a result of the TikTok trend or what it is exactly, but we are getting great engagement on the short little like casual videos. It's not a high production value, right from our homes to yours. And our partners are asking us to collaborate on those too. So that's just an example of the type of content. But I think where it comes from is the want for more just genuine human connection versus this made up, prettied version of a video, or, those still have their place. But more human connection, just listening more. And to your point, Luke, hopefully more quality over the quantity of those, very produced videos, for example, in that case.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And so obviously strategy is like putting the audience first, but how is SmartBrief changing its game up in 2022?
SmartBrief remains 1,000% committed to the reader, and everything begins and ends there. But I'm going to build off of what Luke and Kelly said. Luke said that, giving the reader exactly what they need. That's, as I look to 2022, I see us going forward. I see more business coming in this direction, but I see us drilling down. So like our administrator audience, we're going to see more thought leadership types of pieces there, as opposed to like our educator, our teacher audience. They're looking for more how-tos. So we might have one vendor who wants to do two different pieces, one for school leaders and one for teachers. We're going to discuss pedagogy and instruction over on the educator side, and we're going to talk about strategy, tactic, thought leadership to our principals and superintendents and so forth. So we're really drilling down into that audience need. Need is going to lead everything. Kelly, I loved what you said about listening. It's just that simple. Listen, what are the pain points, and then chase that and give them exactly, address that situation. And I like what you said about, making more human. We found that out last March. We had to get close to the human, super close. That's how we knew that mental illness and mental wellness of not just students, but teachers was super important. And that right there is what became the impetus for us creating a webinar series called Getting to September. And then we were able to fashion our questions. The response was unbelievable. It was a brand new product. Oh, suddenly sponsors are your best friend at that point when they see all the leads coming in. An authentic conversation. Again, it's simple. Just give them exactly what they need, listen, and then have the authentic conversations. To the point of the micro videos, it doesn't have to be this production quality thing. They really just want, just tell me what I need to know. Just give me that and give it to me in 5, 10, 15-minute conversations. But make it real. Put real teachers on here. Because we speak each other, we're having the same headache with the same kid. So let us talk to each other. And authenticity, listening, and responding directly to our readers. That's our strategy. That's our North Star heading into 2020. And we're going to be busy. All of us, the three of us, we're all going to be busy.
One thing that I think is actually really interesting in this, as somebody, I've been in this business now. I started RepCap 10 years ago, like a little over 10 years ago, and content marketing as a concept, and this, like the conversation we're having about content, were very new at that time. Yeah. Like these were early things, or like even like the way Luke is talking about thought leadership. There was like thought leadership was this thing that was over there, and it was kind of academic. Yeah. What our decision tree of what to publish, okay, I'm just going to say, was like blogs were very exciting. And we had conversations about how blogs we were like, it was a volume play. Like we were like, well, if we want to win this SEO game, we have to publish twice a day, 3 times a day. And they were all like short pieces of content. I do think Google changing its algorithm shaped that. Yeah. But now it was like blog, white paper, you do some social. And then the more now I look at this. So when you say simple, I hear the menu of options that we have to express our ideas in at this point feels virtually unlimited, right? So we've got Luke over here still writing 100-page white papers, successfully solving real business problems, right?
Every word is a gem, Mary Ellen. Every word is a gem.
And I got Kelly over here making TikTok videos, and you're but I'm just saying, and they all actually serve a purpose, but you can't do all of them. And so to me, strategy is in part about deciding which of them you're going to do. And I feel like these questions have gotten way more complex. I don't know.
You got it, audience. We just did this. We actually just did a paper on this, and you have to. How do your school leaders want this information? How do teachers want this information? How does the HR guy want this information? yeah, there's a lot of options out there, but readers don't all respond or use that information the same way.
Mhm.
And do they want the interactive white paper, or do they want the PDF that they can download and hand out to everybody else on the buying committee?
Right.
So,
I think sometimes I just need a PowerPoint, and we can
Right.
make fun of PowerPoints all day long in PDFs, but corporate America runs on PowerPoints and
Yeah.
PDFs.
And I think to that point, Marielle, if you are trying to be all things to all people, that's when the discernment around what you publish and
Yeah.
what you don't becomes so important, because you can take a big report and bust it up and do a what do they call it, a placemat for a meeting and a PowerPoint slide. You can do all that stuff. You can't do that when you're publishing 600 pieces of content a year, you know.
Totally.
So you have to, and that, I think I find that just generally it's like this trend towards news you can use, you know. It's just like, give me something that I can work with, give me, you know, and it could be a tweet, right? It could be something that gives you a spur for some creativity or to think about something differently, or maybe just give you some sort of a tangible insight that you can take action on. But it's just, I mean, it is ultimately incredibly interesting. It's a fascinating area to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And Luke, to your point, and I think you said earlier that, you know, quantity is easy, right? Like just producing a ton of content without tracking it, with no strategy, that's an easy thing to do. But it's hard to like lock in on quality and roll up to strategy and deliver business outcomes. And
that's why, like, if I'm slightly disparaging, you know, I have that tone about marketing's involvement in the rigor marketing has around requiring results is really healthy for the thought leadership world. And it's really hard to draw that line between what you publish and what you sell, particularly for something like this sort of, you know, like something like thought leadership, where you're not overtly selling a product or service within the body copy or anything like that. But I think it's a really healthy push for thought leadership more generally to make it think a little more rigorously around, you know, are you getting value for money here? Is this serving the purpose that you want it to serve? Because as you said, it's really easy to just publish a whole bunch of stuff, and everyone has a reason why they want to publish. What it becomes is, okay, sure, we can publish it. What will it do? What will it do for the reader? What will it do for us? How will we know it's been successful? And I think those questions are really worth asking as this industry continues to mature.
I feel like that's also what makes it fun in a way, is that, you know, I'm prompted to, if something's not working, I have the freedom and need actually to experiment and like try a new format and then fail fast if it's not working, you know. And it's great. That's the difference. I feel like when I first switched from journalism is that I'm writing something and I'm seeing the results. And that's both exciting and terrifying, but mostly exciting because I see how people are responding like right away. And I'm adjusting and I'm adapting, and it makes our organization better and me better as a creator. But it's fun in a way. It's a challenge, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that is a wonderful point to end the strategy conversation on. And thank you all for being with us through Managing Editor Live 2021. Like this is a great note to end on, and thank you so much for your time.
All right. And anybody else wrapping up? If everybody else wants to hop over, we're going to have one last really quick session just to end the day, kind of take a moment. And I do have a couple of prizes I'm going to give away, but mostly we're just going to recap and say goodbye. But I do want to thank each of the three of you for taking the time and for hanging out a little over with us, because we had questions. So
thanks very much.
All right.
Thanks,
everyone. Have a great day. Bye.